With a multitude of artistic abilities, from acting, singing, dancing, and otherwise captivating audiences on Broadway, my guest today, Kyla Carter, she has a talent that truly knows no bounds. Her passion and dedication just shine through in every performance, leaving a lasting impression on music lovers of all backgrounds. Having graced numerous stages and enhanced audiences at various venues, Kyla has established herself as a true artist. Now she is ready to take on music, and she is taking the music world by storm, especially if you look at her Spotify ratings right now. Her music is an honest expression straight from the depths of her soul, effortlessly blending art, storytelling, and melody into a harmonious masterpiece. Kyla's undeniable talent and heartfelt performances have garnered her a dedicated fan of followers worldwide. And she has become, I think, an inspiration to many, certainly myself. Serving as a beacon of creativity and a role model for her aspiring artists, Kyla is going to be joining us in just a second. And I just want to point out that her authenticity and genuine connection with her audience, I think, has solidified her place in the hearts of fans around the world. Um, I've listened to her entire album, including the last one, and truly enjoy it. And friends, I think that you're going to enjoy it as well. So, in just a moment, join us on this extraordinary journey as we celebrate the incredible artistry and accomplishments of Kyla Carter. And please keep an eye out for her mesmerizing performances and her music releases. We'll include the information for you to follow her on Spotify and elsewhere. And please join her as she makes a profound impact and continues to make an impact in the world of entertainment, from singing to acting to, I think she's got an amazing talent. And I think you're going to see that shine through. We'll be right back. This is Profiles in Music. I'm Sean Sainhart, and you're listening to citizens.am. Okay, and it is my pleasure to introduce Kyla Carter.
Hello.
Hi, I'm so glad to have you on the show.
Thank
Big fan of yours.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Not a problem. You've been busy. Um, I
Yeah.
mean, you started in show business at 5, I believe.
Yes, 5 years old. I was always singing before that time, which is crazy to think about for such a little kid. But I started getting into the industry professionally at 5 years old.
Jeez, how how did that happen?
Well, through a lot of work through with my parents. So basically, I when I was growing up, my parents put me in every sport imaginable, to try and help me find like a passion or a calling. And at first, I was in soccer and gymnastics, and I even did ice skating at one point. But slowly but surely, I started doing pirouettes in the soccer goals or gravitating more towards dance and music. And my parents were like, okay, I think we need to put her in a music class. So at a local theater near me, they put me in a musical theater class, where we learned Seasons of Love. These like little 4-year-olds are singing Seasons of Love, which is so hard for 4-year-olds to sing. It was like, what is this company thinking? But I remember I was singing it around the house, and my parents like stopped me and they were like, what are you singing? I was like, oh, Seasons of Love. And they were like, you're pretty good. So they ended up like trying to find other outlets for me. And one of the things that my parents really wanted me to do was to play piano. We have a grand piano in our house and they wanted somebody to play it. So they put me in piano lessons. So that was one way I could kind of use music as an outlet for me at such a young age. And of course, I have like little baby hands, so I can't like press on the keyboard correctly. So my piano teacher started um, doing singing with me because I would sing the notes that I was playing, and she was like, "Hey, this kid's pretty good." So she was really more of a singing teacher anyway. She just like dabbled in piano. So slowly, my piano lessons turned into singing lessons, and I was singing all of these songs, and I was 5 at that point, and she looked at my parents and she was like, "You need to take this kid into New York City and you need to get her an agent." So I went to a class act workshop. I sang Castle on a Cloud from Les Mis, and I had, I think, 9 agents call my parents the next day wanting to sign me, which was crazy. And
I love
that's
Les Mis, by the way.
into it. What?
I love Les Mis, by the way.
I like Les Mis is so amazing. I got the privilege to see it in London last summer, and oh my gosh, I was sobbing the whole time. It was gorgeous.
That's a very difficult song to pull off, too. Castles in a Cloud.
Castle on a Cloud for a 5-year-old, yeah. It's very low. I am a soprano one. I can sing all of those crazy high notes. But for little old me at the time, it was the perfect song. I mean, the agents loved it, and I signed with a company called Abrams Artists, which now has
Oh,
retired
okay.
their children's department, and I'm now with Stewart. But at the time, I was with them, and that was like the one of the top agencies to be with for their kids department.
Yes.
So very cool. It was really fun, and I
Yes, I'm
loved
very
them.
familiar with agency.
Yeah.
So, how long after you got an agent did it take before you started getting? I mean, you have such an amazing voice. I just have to keep saying that. Yeah,
Thank you.
I've got so many questions, but so how long did it take though after you get an agent before things started to roll for you?
Well, I booked my first job that I ever auditioned for. So, not very long. I it was for a TV show called, I don't even think it's running anymore. It was called What Would You Do? And basically it was like with John Quinones, and they'd put these people in like situations, and they'd like have people like try and see if they'd go up to them and like speak out or say something. And I was supposed to be this like pageant toddler who like really didn't want to be involved, and I was dressed up as one of the gals from Pretty Women, which was not age appropriate. Which was kind of funny. I feel like this little 5-year-old is dressed up as one of the women from Pretty Women. Oh my gosh. And like see if people would come up to them and say something. So I had to act like I didn't want to be there. And of course, I'm like so excited. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm working with all these people. I was like, act sad, act sad. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then from there, the first couple jobs that I booked were in the voiceover industry, actually. I didn't really get sent on any Broadway auditions until I was a little bit older, until I was like 6 or 7. But five to
Wow.
six was more like commercials and voiceovers. And then like 7, 8, 9 was more like Broadway mixed with voiceovers and a little bit of commercials. But yeah.
What did you do on Broadway?
So I was in 2 Broadway national tours. I was in the Sound of Music Broadway national tour, where I was originally cast as the understudy for Gretel and Marta, got bumped up to Gretel, then got bumped up to Marta, and then I understudied Brigitte as well. So over an 18th month period, I got to play 3 of the Von Trapp siblings, which was crazy. And I was on that tour until I was 10 years old, and I went there when I was 8. And then on the White Christmas Broadway national tour, I did it 2 years in a row. And I was, at that point, I was like 12, 13, so right before COVID hit. And that was like a 4-month running period. And I played Susan Waverly. And I was the only kid in the show. So that was really cool too, to be like around adults all the time and like get to be a part of that world and get a bunch of attention because they were like, oh my gosh, little kid. So yeah.
What wow. How did you take that all in as a kid? I mean, that's an enormous achievement.
Yeah.
The pressure and everything must have been just I can't even imagine.
It was a lot. I mean, something that I tend to reflect on now, as like an older teenager is, how that affected my life, and how would I be where I am now without it? Would I be the person I am now without it? And, I missed out on a bunch of, like, little
Oh,
kid things.
yeah.
like in quotes. Like I missed my own birthday party for 5 years in a row. Like every birthday party for 5 years. I think the year of COVID was like the first year I actually had a birthday party where I was like, oh my gosh, I can invite friends and like
Well,
have a
see,
sit.
something good from COVID.
Yeah, it was I really got to be a kid. Like, it was kind of weird because, I mean, I wouldn't trade the life I have for anything. I mean,
Yeah.
what kid gets to say they traveled? I traveled to 75 cities over 18 months. Like, I've lived practically almost everywhere in the United States. That's crazy. To be able to say that I did, that I had the opportunity to do. I mean, I performed in some of the biggest stages in the world. I was in the Fox Theater in Atlanta that has like 6,000 seats, which is like one of the bigger Broadway theaters in the world, which was insane. And even just like the amount of attention that you get being a kid in this industry and like the friends that you make and whether those friendships are like beneficial to you or harmful. I mean, my best friend that I met through on tour, who was one of the Von Trapp siblings, we were in constant competition with each other, like constantly
Oh,
going
yeah.
out for the same goals. Like, and that really does something to you as a kid and like trying to take that in of being in and out of school. I mean, like I was always the new kid, like having to go into school and remake friends again after not seeing them for a year. And I was lucky enough to have friends that like it was pretty easy to go back to normal, but it still took time to be like, okay, what's happened in the past year that I need to catch up on? Or even like socially like being behind and like not understanding certain trends, or like I know Musically was like really popular at the time. I had no clue what that was. I was in my like little tour bubble with 7 kids for 2 years. Like I only knew what was kind of inside of those gates. And even those kids were a range of ages. I mean, the youngest kid we had was 6 years old, all the way up to 14. So, I mean, I was smack dab in the middle of that. So it's like, I was always hanging out with the younger kids, like relating to them more because like socially I was kind of on that same level, and the older kids were kind of doing their own thing, but in the end we kind of came together. So it was a lot to handle, and it still is a lot to handle. I think about that sometimes and I'm like, how did I do that? Like how did my family do that? That's another question
Yeah.
that I think about a lot too.
I was going to ask about that because, I mean, it's one thing to do something locally, which for parents too is a huge commitment, especially when you have a child in show business. But to
Mhm.
be touring, I mean, you have to have a parent with you at all times. I mean, that must have been a big adjustment for them as well.
Yeah, so both of my parents are educators. My dad is a headmaster at a private school, and my mom was an elementary school teacher. They obviously that's like strict jobs, like 8 to 3 every day, like summers off, but still like really hard work. I mean, they're dealing with kids all day long. And when I got accepted onto the tour, like I said, I was the understudy for Gretel and Marta, and then eventually got bumped up because there was a bunch of like child labor laws in LA, that the little girl who was playing Gretel couldn't work because she was way too young. So they were like, okay, I guess since you're old enough, you're Gretel now. Hello. And then from there, I got bumped up to Marta. So my parents at the time, I mean, I was told I would never perform. There was like, there's a chance you'll never go on. You'll sit backstage. Um, and my parents, well, I remember when my mom told me I got the job. I was like, we were walking home. I was like in 3rd grade. We're like walking home from school to like go to our car. And she's like, oh, so, you booked that tour. And I remember just being like, oh, really? And she was like, yeah, like you're the understudy though. And she was kind of explaining to me like what that means. And I remember looking at her and she's like, Kyla, like it would tear our family apart. Like you're not going to see your brother. I have a younger brother. He's a year younger than me. She's like, you're not going to see your brother for like 6 months at a time. I'd have to quit my job. Like there's so much stuff. And I remember looking at her and I was like, Mommy, I just want to be a part of it. And like that has like stuck. Like that needs to be like on a post-it note, like on my gravestone. Like I just want to be a part of it because like I remember her looking at me and like she was like, she just wants to be a part of it. Like she just wants to be on stage. And whatever that meant for our family, which I'm so proud to be a part and be the daughter of my parents. Like they're the most amazing people. And for them to do that for me was really like mind blowing. And I even think about that now of like, oh my gosh, would I do that for my kid when I get older? Like they separated my family for 18 months. Like there was a period I didn't see my dad and my brother for literally 6 months at a time. And like they lived their own separate life and I lived mine with
Yeah.
my mom. And then eventually when we came home, it was like two strangers, like two different families living in a house. Like 2 years, like when you're 8 and 9, like I had to like relearn how to be friends with my brother. Like he didn't know who I was, I didn't know who he was. Because if we did see each other, it was like maybe 3 days, and then bye. I guess I'll see you in another 2 months. So it was tough. It was really tough on my family. I can happily say that my family, we're all still together. We all live under the same roof, have been for years, and it's just the way it's supposed to be, and it's really nice. And I have a wonderful, wonderful supportive family. I mean, my brother's my number one supporter. Like, if it wasn't for him, I don't know where I'd be because he keeps me humble. But he's also like the one with like wearing the number one glove on his hand like all the time. So it was tough on my family, and it still is tough on my family because I mean, here I am doing an interview, like they're like in the house somewhere. So I mean, I'm really grateful for the folks that I have.
When did it's just again amazing how much talent you have at such a young age and your journey. I mean, it really is. You're very lucky because it's a very hard business, and a lot of people spend a lot of years. And you were very fortunate that somebody recognized your talent very early on.
Yeah.
And now here you are with, I think, a hit album.
Well, thank you.
Um, I mean, let's do this. Let's play "Criminal for You," and then we've also got another song, your latest. Um,
Yeah.
but I want our listeners to listen to "Criminal for You." I mean, this is just this is an earlier product, right?
So this was written, well, it was released about a year ago, this song. Criminal for You, something that's been kind of a discovery thing for me as an artist. I mean, when COVID, you were saying like earlier that COVID was something positive came out of it, and it really did. Like, COVID was almost like a blessing in disguise for me because since Broadway was shut down, since my industry was shut down, I had no outlet. It was like, oh my god, like where's Broadway? Where's theater? So my mom, of course, being the most amazing person she is, was like, how about you learn an instrument? How about you learn guitar? I was like, why not? I've got nothing to lose. And from that, I started writing songs. And at first, they were kind of more like personal songs that I didn't
Right.
plan on releasing anything. And then like 3 years later, I'm released like 5 songs. And I have "Criminal for You," which that was written. It was originally another song that I wrote, and I scrapped the entire thing and then rewrote it because I had a different vision for the song. And my brother actually helped me out with the song, which was fun. There's like a gunshot sound in the song, and my brother, he was like listening to. I was like playing him like the one of the demos, and I was like, Cam, which is my brother's name. I was like, Cam, like, don't you feel like something should go here? Like, I feel like something's missing. He's like, put a gunshot. I was like, okay. I was like, my 14-year-old brother, he's 15 now, but my 14-year-old brother at the time is saying to put a gunshot sound in my song. Like, I guess we're doing that. And people love it. Then he'll still go around and be like, that was my idea, you know. I'm like, I know, I'll give you credit for it. But "Criminal for You" it's probably my favorite song I've written. And it's probably a
Yeah.
lot of people, and it blew up. Like, people love that song. And I'm happy that I could be a part of something that's been so big.
Yeah. And again, I just want to stress the talent that you have. I mean, to write, I mean,
You.
playing instruments, acting, singing, writing your own music. I mean, where are your parents musical? I just wonder where this talent came from. Wow.
So that's kind of the running joke is not one person in my family has ever been musical. Like, it doesn't run in my bloodline. Like, everybody for the most part has been like very clean cut, like football
Really?
player, cheerleader in school, grows up to work a 9 to 5 or be a teacher or be something like a nurse. Like, and that's kind of been the joke is because my mom wanted me and my brother to be like the football player and the cheerleader. And she wanted me to do cheer. She did cheer and like a bunch of other stuff like that. And I just threw for a loop. I was like, actually, that's not going to be be the plan. We're going to make a full 180. And from that, I'm like kind of the black sheep of my family. Like, I get constantly asked like, oh, like, are you going to get a real job? Like, what are you going to go to college for? And a lot of people don't understand where I'm coming from. So it's like, I'm kind of like separated in that sense of like, oh, she's just the musician. Like, let's just give her a guitar. Like, she'll sing. But I am the family entertainment at any family gathering. It's like, okay, guys, like, let's sit down. Kyla, bring the guitar. Let's hear it. Let's hear the newest one. So, yeah, nobody in my family has been musical, which is kind of cool.
That's just amazing. Well, let's go ahead and listen to Criminal for You. If my producer can cue that up for us.
Yeah.
I love this song.
I love the chase, so keep on running from me. Anywhere you are, baby, that's where I'll be. I'll always find you, that I guarantee. Run, so addicting, you'll never find another girl like me to be by your side. You know it's true, so stop wasting time. Got my own special kind of hit list. Instead of blood, it's covered in kisses. Nothing keeps us apart. Lock you up right in my heart. I'm a criminal for you. I do what I have to do just to be with you. Criminal for you. Yeah, I'm a criminal for you. I'll do what I have to do just for me and you. Criminal for you. Sparkle and shine, I'm one of a kind. Millions want me, but I decline. You and me forever, it's do or die. Got my own special kind of hit list. Instead of blood, it's covered in kisses. Nothing keeps us apart. Lock you up right in my heart. I'm a criminal for you. I'll do what I have to do just to be with you. Criminal for you. Yeah, I'm a criminal for you. I'll do what I have to do just for me and you. Criminal for you. Tell me that you love me, tell me that you're obsessed. Tell me I'm your baby, tell me you shouldn't have left. Tell me that you love me, tell me that you're obsessed. Tell me I'm your baby, tell me you shouldn't have left. I'm a criminal for you. I'll do what I have to do just to be with you. Criminal for you. Yeah, I'm a criminal for you. I'll do what I have to do just for me and you. Criminal for you. I'm a criminal for you. I'll do what I have to do just to be with you. Criminal for you. Yeah, I'm a criminal for you. I'll do what I have to do just for me and you. Criminal for you.
Again, I was literally shocked to learn how young you were.
Really? Yeah,
Um,
16.
I listened to that song. It just blows me away how young you are. And that's a very mature. There's so many components to that song that I love. The way it's constructed and put together, and it's different because it's got different elements to it. Like, I like how it kind of stops right at the beginning,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
and you're like, wait a minute, that's a short song. And then all of a sudden it starts up again, and it's got a whole different rhythm to it.
Yeah. When I have the most amazing producer ever. He really helps my visions come to life. And especially with this song, a lot of people ask me like, how do you write a song like this? And honestly,
Yeah.
like the honest answer is like, I genuinely have no idea. Like, it's kind of like I like black out in a sense of like, when I'm writing music, like the best songs that I've released, which this is what happened for Criminal for You, it's just like a spark, and I just follow it. And I know that's so cliche of like, oh, like follow your heart, like follow your dreams, like whatever it tells you. Like, it genuinely, like, I'll get a spark of inspiration. I'm like, great, I have to write this song. And that, like, my friends make fun of me all the time for this because I'll like come up with a song idea like in the middle of a test and like write it on my test, or like write it, like it immediately take out my phone. Like, my friend will say something and I'm like, oh my God, like the spark of inspiration. It's like right here, right now. I gotta write this down. And it was kind of that way for Criminal for You too. Kind of with my journey as an artist. I mean, it's been an arch of different genres and different styles of music. And with this song, I kind of wanted to refine who I was as an artist more. And this was kind of the song that set like the current audience that I have because of the amount of feedback, and positive feedback I got on this song. And I didn't expect it to like have as many streams as it does. I mean, it has 500,000 streams. It's crazy, probably even more than that. And that was like, just listening to it now, like that was the first time I've heard the song in probably like a month or two. Like sometimes I forget like the songs that I write, and it's like I'll listen to them back and be like, oh my God, I wrote that. Like, whoa, okay, like that was pretty good. I have to pat myself on the back for that one. But Criminal for You is definitely my favorite song that I've written, just because of how intricate it is, and it was really more pop based than anything I've written before. All the songs I've written before kind of went from more like folky, country, sad, even Karma was more rock. And this was like purely like pop, even probably a little even bit of rock influence in there too. And my main inspirations like for my songs have been Britney Spears. She's been like one of my main inspirations in writing songs, which a lot of people find kind of funny. But especially when talking to my producer, I'm like, listen to like any Britney Spears album, any Britney Spears song, and like, please just like, that is what I want. Like, I think my main inspiration for this one was Toxic by Britney Spears. And I think, yeah, it was Toxic by Britney Spears.
Oh, okay. I can see that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you
It's
said
like,
Britney Spears, I didn't get it. And I'm thinking, really? But no, that is, I do see hints of that in there.
yeah, something that I really like about her music is she uses a lot of synth. In
Yes.
the beginning of my song journey, I didn't really like electronic instruments. I wanted like pure instrument sounds, like record drums for me, please. Like I don't want fake drums. And now I'm like electronic everything. And I think that's what makes it stand out, is because it's really seamless in the way it's produced. And it's so clean. Kevin, who is my producer's insane. Like I can tell him something, give him a melody and exactly what I want, and he's like, yeah, and he just literally makes it come to life. And I'm really proud of that. Like I write my own music and I write my own lyrics. Like it is purely me. Like the song that you're hearing, I wrote everything. Every melody, every single thing has been me. And that's really cool to like give that gift into somebody else's hands to use their talents to make like my vision shine. So I'm very thankful.
Yeah. And so talk to me about the evolution of, so you went from, because again, that's the other thing that's remarkable about you is the range of your music. It's really hard to pin down a genre for you.
Yeah, it is.
What would you, if you had to generalize, what would you say the genre of your music overall that you'd like it to be?
Yeah, I mean, all the songs that I have really fall under pop. And over the past year or two, I've really like dug into that. Like, okay, I'm a pop singer, which is kind of a fun transition. And the way that I got into pop music was really interesting. I was purely a musical theater singer, like musical theater, everything. Like, give me every Hamilton waitress, like, just give it all. And then I actually, kind of in the VO world, I got hired to sing a pop song for DreamWorks for Trolls of Beat Goes On, where I played CJ Suki. And they wrote an original song for me and were like, okay, so we're hiring you. Like, you're going to record this song. And I was like, great. I've never sung pop music in my life. So I had a week to learn how to sing pop music, like, which is so different than musical theater. I mean, now they're more intertwined. But when I started doing that role, which was years ago now, I'm still continually doing it, which is also a whole nother thing of like how keeping voices in your head for different characters, like, oh, that's its own journey. But I recorded the song in one take, and they were like, oh, like I was literally in the studio. They booked me for like 3 hours, and I literally sang it one take, was out in 15 minutes, and they were like, this is insane. And from then on, I really fell in love with pop music. I fell in love with singing pop music, writing pop music, and more of the songs that I wrote for myself, because in the beginning of my journey, a lot of the songs I wrote were more like a sense of outlet for me, of just like to write my emotions down, like get stuff on a page, became more about like, okay, so let's write a story instead of just your feelings. And that was where it kind of Criminal for You came in. It was more of a story in a song. And I feel like that really comes, it's really portrayed in the way it's produced and the way it's sung and the way it's written.
Now, your new song, If These Walls Could Talk,
Yes.
very interesting song. And I want to listen to that in just a moment. But what was the inspiration behind that?
So you know how I said before that when I get a spark of inspiration, I immediately write it down. I was in my chorus class with my best friend ever, like my BFF, who I literally just spent the whole weekend with. We're sitting next to each other, and we were talking about just girly teenage things. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, if only these doors could talk." And I was like, the expression is, if only these walls could talk. And I was like, if only these walls could talk. Oh my God. And I wrote a song about it. I immediately went home, grabbed my guitar, wrote the song, sent it to her. Like, first person, I was like, oh my God. Like, you know how we were talking earlier? I just wrote this song. And she was like, you better give me credit. She was like, I said I was the one who inspired you for it. I was like, well, actually, you said doors. But I was like, we're getting technical. But this song is actually like really personal to me. And it's kind of like a hidden message in a song because nobody knows what it's about except for me and my best friend and probably another couple people.
Right.
But it was really fun to write. And it's kind of playing into that idea of like mystery and secrets that people loved before. I like to call it like the cousin song to Criminal for You because they kind of are related in a way. But If These Walls Could Talk is definitely more personal than Criminal for You. And this one is more also, I feel like more easy listening. It's not as much telling a story, but definitely like a dancey. I wanted to write like a dance song that I could listen to at like parties. And I've had so many people like come up to me like, oh my God, I love this song. Like I dance to it all the time. Friends in school and people on social media love the song too. So the inspiration came from my best friend.
Well, let's give it a listen. If my producer can cue that up. I love this song too. It's hard to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mackenzie.
You pull me closer while we sneak away. You've taken over, make our secret escape. Your right to left, straight. In the end, we will be in the perfect place as long as you're with me. Oh, baby, I just can't say no. If only these walls could talk about us, all of the things we said and have done. Both know it's true. I can't resist you. If only these walls could talk about us. Walls could talk about. I catch your glances from across the room. Such a romantic. I know you know I want you. It's getting harder, hiding from everyone. You give me that look, then we're on the run. Oh, baby, I just can't say no. If only these walls could talk about us, all of the things we said and have done. Nobody knows, keep us on the low. If only these walls could talk about us, walls could talk about. You're holding my hand while you're kissing me. They'll never know what you mean to me. Grabbing me by my waist, captive in your embrace. Over and over again and again. Should we keep secrets and just pretend it's only us in this world? Babe, I'm your only girl. Oh, baby, I just can't say no. If only these walls could talk about us, all of the things we said and have done. Both know it's true. I can't resist you. If only these walls could talk about us, walls could talk about. If only these walls could talk about us, walls could talk about.
Now, this song, talk to me about, because I think this is pretty exciting, A Break.
A Break, yes. Oh my gosh. A Break podcast, A Break 58. So my song Criminal for You actually hit number one on their podcast. On their playlist, not on their podcast, on their playlist. And they were absolutely amazing. I mean, just to even be on that playlist, I have gotten so many more support from fellow
Yeah.
artists as well as people, just fans across the world. And it was really, really launched that song as well. Criminal for You and These Walls are both on the playlist. Well, Criminal for You was on one point, and now These Walls is on the playlist, which is really cool. And it's climbing and rising every week because people vote on the songs, which I think is really cool. And I have a huge audience of fans all around the world. And I'm really happy that my fans aren't just like little icons online. They're real people who like genuinely support me. Even if that's like through my stories, the amount of swipe ups I get on my stories of just like, this was so inspiring. Thank you, you're an amazing singer. Like, it means the absolute world to me. And to see that they're continually voting for my songs is just, oh my gosh, I can't even explain the feeling. It's really great. And I'm just so lucky I'm able to be even on the playlist. Like, it's a dream come true.
Well, and just so for the audience to be clear, talk about the
Yeah.
significance of this playlist and the executive producer involved with it, because that is even more extraordinary.
Yeah. So the people who created A Break, they are involved with a bunch of different record labels like Atlantic Records, Sony Records. To be on this playlist is just wow. You can submit your song, or they can like handpick your song if they find it. And basically, like the top 58 songs they believe that have been submitted are on the playlist. So they get thousands of submissions a day. And to even like be number 58 on the playlist it's a huge launch for any artist. And I am just so like, I cannot say it enough. Like, I'm so, so grateful for the A-Break team and to be on their playlist. And they have put so much trust and support in me. They've been my number one fans, as well as every other artist on there as well. And every song on there is insane, like absolute artistry. So it's a huge, huge deal.
Yeah. And so what are your plans in the future? I mean, are you going to take, because right now, These Walls is a single.
Yes.
Are you planning on making that part of a larger album?
So an album, so I'm 16. I am a junior in high school. I was like, oh wait, let me just start with that. I'm 16. I'm a junior in high school. My last day of school was yesterday. I am going to start a very extensive college process to go to school for music and continue my work in musical theater and as well as songwriting and singing. And through all that, if I have time to make an album, that would be amazing. I mean, I have a lot of songs that I love, but if I want to crafting an album is so much more work than crafting a single, not even just because it's more songs, but especially for me, when I release an album, like I want the songs to cohesively go together and tell a story. I feel like a lot of artists, what they do is they just throw their favorite songs in an album and ship it off and hope it does well. And usually they do well because it's nice to have versatility on your album. But for me specifically, I would really want to spend time crafting and trying different things. So to create like a 12-song album in the span of a year it would feel rushed almost. And that's not what I want. I mean, everything I put out, I want to be the absolute best for my audience. I mean, like they're my number one supporters. And if I don't think it's good, they're not going to think it's good either. So if I were to release anything, it would probably be an EP, which is like about 5 songs. And I would probably take a couple of the singles I've released already. And it would definitely include Criminal for You and These Walls. My older songs, because I kind of had like a dramatic switch in my type of style, I don't know if they fit as well with who I am now. Though I really do love those songs. I mean, they tell a story. I feel like all the songs I've released so far really tell a story of me like coming into myself and finding who I am. And I'm proud of the songs. Though sometimes I look at my beginning songs, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, it's like, what was I doing? Like, I could have done this so much better. But I have to remember to be kind to myself and be kind to the person who released those songs, because she's just as important and amazing as I am now. But I don't know. I really hope to, within the next year or two, release like an EP at least. But an album's stretchy, and I want to make sure it's like the absolute best it can be for my fans.
Well, right. And again, I literally do keep forgetting how young you are.
Yeah.
Because the music is so mature, and you listen to it, and it's, I never would have imagined you being as young as you are. And so, it is definitely important to focus on school, and also taking some time to just be a kid, right? I mean, you're 16, but that's still a kid, right?
Yeah. I feel like something that I've been really good at ever since I was little is scheduling my time. My mom and I like to joke. We have like our days planned down to like the absolute minute. Like I'm here, and then I'm here, and then I'm here, and then I'm here, because I have so many things going on. And over the past like 2 years, my 10th grade year and my 11th grade year, like I can wholeheartedly say like I got to be a kid. Though I still, of course, had events going on and, all of that jazz. I'm not on Broadway right now. I was for years. I'm not on Broadway. I am still working and recording music and doing voiceover work and movies and a bunch of other things, but nothing that's taking me out of school for long, long, long periods of time. So I can like wholeheartedly say like I got to be a kid, and I'm so happy it was my high school years. Like, thank you. It's okay that we skipped middle school. It's okay that we skipped elementary school. Getting to experience like being a teenager and still having like the world that I had in my heart has been really interesting, at approaching just regular teenage situations and life outside of that. And maybe I've had enough of being a kid, and now it's time to grow up and be an adult and go into my senior year in college. But I'm really happy I did have that time to kind of reflect and like, I guess in quotes, like be normal. Though nothing about my life has ever been like by the book or normal so far. And I like it that way.
No, trust me, you want to stay a kid as long as possible.
Yeah.
Trust me on that. And you also speak for adversity too.
Yeah, definitely.
Talk about that a little bit, because I think that especially at such a young age, that is such an important trait to have.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been told that I've been really mature for my age, and I mean, that's been coming from years and years of work. But also like I feel like the people that you grow up with, that you surround yourself with, like impact you as a person. And I've been lucky enough to have like amazing people in my life. Obviously, there's not everybody who's been amazing. That's where karma is written about, and the not amazing people in my life. But of course, like there's my supporters and the people around me that have really taught me those traits. Like those really like great like developing traits that like kindness, adversity, like differences, like all these things that like are hard for like kids in quotes to understand. I've really been like taught not only by my parents, who are like the kindest people ever, because they work with so many different types of people, with so many different types of kids. They've raised me and my brother in a way that's accepting of everyone, and accepting and understanding of other people's situations. So go parents, you guys did an amazing job. But also like the people that I've surrounded myself with have been so different, in race, in culture, in gender. Like I've just been lucky enough to like have a really broad world, and I think that's what's really helped me as an artist to connect to other people, as well as tell other people's stories in my songs and not just my own. Because I mean, I played a character for so long. Like when you're on Broadway, you're not playing yourself. I mean, for 2 years, I was playing these like characters, and it's so much easier to play a character than it is to like put your heart like into the world and like, this is my song and this is my heart and I hope you accept it and love it and like don't like cancel me. Um, and I've been lucky enough to have amazing fans and amazing people surrounding me to help me grow as not only a person, but as an artist.
No, well, when you say grow as an artist, again, I think that you've achieved where your talent is just astonishing. It really is, and I say that genuinely. My producer too, I think, was quite shocked to learn how young you are.
Oh, wow.
After listening to the music, she went right to Spotify and she's like, "Oh, I love this," and she's like, "This is like really popular." I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah.
How did that happen? How
What?
did you get it? How did you get that following on Spotify? Did you already have sort of a following from before, or?
So my Instagram growth. Instagram has my whole heart. I've met some amazing people through Instagram. I know TikTok's like really popular right now, but I genuinely feel like Instagram has been a huge part of my life. Not only collecting a fan base, but collecting like genuine like people that support me. I don't Fans is like an interesting word to me because it's like they're not fans, like they're supporters. Like they genuinely like love me and support me. And I know that every single person behind that screen like genuinely has like a good heart and good intentions. But I started off with about 2,000 followers back in 2017, just from like friends and other people that I was close with in the Broadway industry, other connections that I've made. And the first song I released was called Average Puzzle Piece, which I have an interesting relationship with this song because I've grown so much since this song, as a writer, as a person, as a performer, as an artist. And it went crazy. Like, not even that it has the most streams ever, because it doesn't. The message that it spread impacted a lot of people. And that message is just something my mom used to tell me all the time. Is like, just be you. And I know that's so cliche of like, just be you and everybody's gonna love you. And though that's not always true, it was interesting to people to hear a 13-year-old say it. At the time I released the song, I was 13. Because I mean, you hear adults say that every day, but you don't hear kids telling other kids like, just be you. And that's always going to be enough, because if you're not yourself, then who are you? And the message of that song just reached so many people. And I remember like turning to my parents and being like, I'm get like the amount of comments I'm getting like every day from people in this song or like DMs is crazy. Like they just really connected to this song and love this message. And though the writing, in my opinion, is like not beginner level, probably above there, but very simplistic. That's the best word to put it. Very simplistic, easy to understand, more easy listening. It really impacted people. It's like 4 chords. It's like a C chord, a G, an A minor, and an F on like the 4th fret of my guitar. The first 4 chords I learned how to play, sitting there writing this song. And I remember like being so nervous to like to put the song out to my 2,000 followers. I'm like sitting there, I'm like, Mom, like, I don't know if I could do this. Like, are we really releasing this song? Like, I don't know if like people are gonna like it. Like, this is really personal to me. And she was like, Kyla, like, the people that are gonna support you are gonna love to hear what you have to say. And I remember just being like, okay, yeah, like, yes, okay. This is the song. This is the song that I chose out of the couple that I've written that I like. Like, okay, I'll release it. And if it goes somewhere, it goes somewhere. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I don't care. I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing this for anybody else. Like, obviously, I want people
Right.
to like understand the message, but I'm doing this for me. This is for me. I am me. I'm doing this for me. And I was just lucky enough that enough people wanted to hear what I had to say. And I slowly started gaining gaining a following through that, as well as at the same time I was recording Trolls. The beat goes on still, so gain more following from that as well. But a lot of people after my Karma release, like again, a huge spike in people following me. And then Criminal for You, I mean, I got 500,000 streams on that song. That was just like shot up into the sky. And that doesn't have like an inspirational message. Though I love, like, a lot of the stuff that I post is inspirational because I feel like a lot of people don't hear it enough. And even when I feel like I'm not hearing something enough, like I feel like I need to post it, because if I'm not hearing it enough, I know there's somebody out there that's also not hearing it. So if I could be the person to tell them, like, that would be crazy. So a lot of stuff I post is inspirational, but some of the songs I released, I mean, Criminal for You has nothing to do with inspiration. And I still get people like DMing me being like, this is really great. Like, you're just such an inspiring person. It's not even my music that's been inspiring. It's just been me as a person. And that means that's like, I don't think there's any other gift that's more like precious than that. So yeah, that's how I kind of gained my following and my support, which it's been so great. I'm really thankful.
Well, and people do need to hear, especially right now in the time that we're living with so much, there is a lot of adversity. There's a lot of discrimination, especially sadly targeting children. And, you know, people do need to hear a positive message that you provide in your music. It's very critical these days.
Yeah, I mean, I released a song 2020. I think it was like, actually, I don't remember. It was definitely 2020, but I do not remember the month. It's been way too long, 3 years too long. And I remember releasing it, and like this social media at that point, I mean, the whole world at that point, like everything at that point. I mean, my 8th grade year was cut off. Like, it was the first year I was like, okay, like I'd just come off of tour, then the world shut down, like didn't get to finish school. I was online my 9th grade year. Like, it was just, oh my gosh, the whole year was just, it was hell year. It was hell year. And then to come out with this song, people loved it. I had kids coming up to me, like kids I'd never even talked to in my school before, texting me and being like, I know we don't talk a lot, but this really meant a lot to me. And that's just amazing. And like, even now, I mean, 3 years later, we're still in the same kind of ditch of, there's always going to be issues with the world. I mean, that's how it is. Whether it's painted to be more than it is or it's not. And I'm happy to know that throughout these 3 years and throughout the amount of time that I've had a presence on social media, that I've been able to stand strong in like the messages that I have to say, and support people along the way instead of bring people down.
And, you know, I want to genuinely thank you for that too, because again, it's been really rough the last few years. Well, the last decade really, but
yeah.
And let me ask you really quick, what was that like during during COVID, having to do the schooling online? I mean, how did that impact you?
So it's kind of funny. I have never had a normal school experience ever, like literally ever. I mean, I was set tutors, homeschooled, in and out of school. So online school wasn't that new for me. What became new was the environment that I was in, and that's what affected me. My 9th grade year, I say, is the worst year of my life. Is where a lot of songs came from that were darker, that I've never released, because that was, songwriting really became an outlet for me. Like, that's how it started, was to really just write stuff down. And I was spending like 9 hours in my room doing schoolwork. I would dance for 6 hours a night, and then I'd come home and do it all over again, for an entire year. And like, obviously I didn't see my friends. They were kind of in and out of school too, because they were doing like cohorts. I was like, I'm not going to school and wearing a mask like for this amount of time and doing cohorts. Like, I'd rather just stay at home. Like, I've done homeschooling before. I can do it. And quickly it was really bad. It was really bad for my mental health, for my mom's mental health. I mean, she was home too. My dad, he ran a private school, so he was like doing masks and everything, and we kind of knew the more educational side because of that. My brother was in and out of school too because he was going to the private school. I went to public school, my brother went to private school, just because private school was tricky to situate with the whole like leaving school 24/7. It's more of a public school thing to negotiate that. But it was really draining on my mental health. It was really bad. It was really bad for a lot of kids. I mean, I've had this conversation with every single one of my friends of just like, that year was the worst year ever. Like, for everyone, you couldn't see your friends. You could barely see your family. Like, I remember it was the first Christmas back from COVID finally being died down. And Christmas Day, my mom tested positive for COVID. And I remember like sobbing. And then this year, which surprise, surprise, guess who tested positive for COVID Christmas Day 2 years in a row? My mom. And I tested positive on New Year's Eve. Like it was like gut wrenching because I mean, I'd spent a year in my room. Like I literally felt like Rapunzel. Like I literally spent a year in my room. And I've had COVID twice now, which has been an experience. And I've had all my vaccines and everything that I need to just to be able to work. And that year, I mean, with the schooling and like not learning, and I mean, it set like so many kids back. I mean, I've already had trouble from missing so much school. Like now it's like a whole nother piece of like, I basically didn't have a ninth grade year. Like there's no kid that's going to sit in front of a computer for 9 hours and like pay attention. Like, I'm sorry, any earth science class, like my ninth grade year, I was sleeping through that. There's no way. I'm an artist. Like I'm not a mathematician or a scientist. But it was really hard. But we prevailed. I'm in actual school now. I'm in a private school, which is also not normal. Also has its quirks. But I'm a lot better off now, and a lot of other kids are too. And I'm really happy that we made it out of that ditch because that was a rough one. But it inspired a lot of art. I mean, a lot of art for me, a lot of art for other people. So I mean, there's positives to everything. And I literally wrote a whole song on that. I wrote Half Full, Half Empty during that period, which is about seeing the positive light in things and not falling into that ditch of being unhappy. Because I needed to hear that message myself. So if I wrote a song about it, I needed somebody else to hear it too, because I knew somebody was feeling the same thing. So much art and so much like prevalence, like so much rise out of the ashes, like a phoenix. Like it was a lot, and I'm glad that a lot of people have made it out of that now.
Well, I want to thank you for all of the work that you've done musically. It's been inspiring. I love the music. And I want to also thank you. You've been so generous with your time this evening, and I want to thank you for that. Where can people find out? I can't even talk. Where can people find more about you and your music?
Yeah, if you want to listen to any of my songs again or see some of my older work, you can look me up as Kyla Carter on Spotify. Also, you can follow me on Instagram and basically any other social media platform at Kyla D. Carter. So Kyla, Kyla D. Carter. And you can go on my website, which is Kyla Carter Music, where you can see all the stuff about my music. It's all on there, every single link. I'm on basically every single streaming platform, Spotify, Apple Music. So you can basically find me anywhere.
And we'll go ahead and put those links down below too, for people that are listening to this later. Kyla, thank you so much, and best of luck to you in your career. I hope that you'll come back. I can't wait to see what's in your future, because if I can't imagine the next level for you, right? I mean, you always seem to be at a top level. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just, I'm really, really amazed. And again, thank you so much, Kyla.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I mean, this has been so wonderful. Just getting to even have a voice to talk to you and all of your amazing questions, and an audience who's willing to listen to me. I think that's the most important thing. So thank you so much again.
Thank you so much. And you have a great evening. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Profiles in Music. We'll see you next Friday at 5 o'clock.